Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to go over an overview of the weapons and weapon abilities in V Rising. Now, weapons play a pretty substantial role on the combat and overall progression in V Rising, and they also give you some of the main abilities you're going to be using while in combat. Now, at a baseline, all weapons have their own left click or basic attack. So if you have a mace, you have your primary attack that deals a certain percentage of damage based off of your physical damage, and all melee weapons also have a combo. So for the primary attack of a mace here, you do 50%, then 60% physical damage, and that's just done by holding down your left click. And different weapons will have a little bit of differences with the primary or basic attacks, such as a spear pretty much only hits one target in front of you, swords cleave pretty much everything in a cone in front of you, and something like a crossbow doesn't have a combo but does a lot more damage per shot and is a ranged attack. Now, the weapon abilities are only based off of that weapon type, so if you have a super high tier mace, it's still going to have the same exact abilities as a really low tier mace. But you do start to unlock more abilities of that weapon type as you get further into the progression of the game and start unlocking higher tier weapons. So for instance, I have a reinforced bone mace right here. This is one of the starter weapons. We only have a left click. We don't have any other abilities with this. But then if we go over and we see my copper axe, this is a tier above that, and copper weapons are when you get your first activatable ability for your weapons, which is at baseline set under Q. For the axe, it's frenzy, which you dash forward, you deal an attack, then you enter a frenzy state, which gives you increased movement speed and attack speed for a short duration. So no matter what rarity or item level, all axes of copper and higher are going to have the frenzy ability. And every weapon type has their own ability. So if you go to sword, you now have whirlwind, which you basically just spin around, dealing damage very quickly. But then to unlock the next ability, which is under E and is your second weapon technique, you have to get an iron weapon, which is the tier above copper. So once you get to iron, you will then have all of your weapon abilities unlocked. So as you see here, we have a iron crossbow, we have our basic primary attack, we have our Q ability that's a rain of bolts that you would have if you have copper or above, and then we have our E attack, which quickly fires a bolt, interrupts casts, and inflicts a fading snare. And you unlock your E ability once you get to iron tier. And then anything above iron, you're just getting additional stats. And you can have as many of these different weapons equipped as you want at one single time, up to 9, which is how many slots you have on your left action bar. And you can switch between them completely freely. While in combat, out of combat, you can switch between them. But something to note is all of your weapons share the same cooldowns. So for instance, if I go to my axe and I use my Q ability, it's now on a cooldown. If I go to my sword, its Q is also on cooldown. So you can't use the cooldown of one ability, switch to a new weapon, and use that ability right away. They all share the same cooldowns on Q and E. But left click or your primary attack doesn't have a cooldown, so you could use your abilities off of your sword, then switch to your axe and use its primary attack and be completely fine. And weapons are your primary way of dealing physical damage. So if you go and look at any weapon, they're going to have a physical power increase on that weapon as a stat. And the better weapons you get, the higher physical power it's going to deal. And then pretty much all of your abilities, your primary attack, your QE, are going to deal percentage damage based off of your physical damage. So if you're going to want to try to create like physical builds, those are going to be all based off of the different weapons in the game. And then you'll also have critical hit chance and critical hit damage for physical power, just like you have it for spell power. And the final part of your weapons is that your melee weapons are also your gathering tools, and they have different stats that make them better at gathering different things. So for example, if you scroll over any sword, it's going to have plus 25% damage to vegetation at a minimum. So this means if you go out and you're trying to gather different flowers or plant fibers, using a sword is going to do more damage. Now, the main difference between these different weapons and the damage increases is just how fast you gather certain materials. We haven't seen any big differences in how much you're going to gather, but it's going to gather faster. So if you go to an axe, it's going to do more physical damage to wood, so you're going to chop down trees faster. Then you go to a bone mace, you're going to do more damage to minerals, so you can harvest rocks or copper quicker than you could with other tools. Now, I have found one other another tool that seems specific to gathering resources, but I've only seen it once and I don't know a way to craft these items. But it was essentially another mace, but it was a mace specifically for gathering because it had 50% physical damage increase to minerals. But I'm not sure if that was actually fully completed content because it looked exactly like a normal mace's, but the symbol on it made it look like a hammer. So I'm not sure about that, but there is different weapons out there you can go get that makes harvesting quicker as well. But that's pretty much all I want to go over for a basic overview of the weapons of V Rising. These are going to play a massive part in you creating different builds in the game. So subscribe if you want to see more of V Rising or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about the weapons in V Rising, and thanks for watching.